And we're podcasting.
And we're
And
back.
we know with Kari and Lisa. So Lisa, we this time of year, okay, so one of the things that prompted this topic is talking about how sad this time of year can be. And I am one of those saps who gets very melancholy about the end of a school year. I don't, it's
Always?
hard, always, not
Huh.
just I thought it was just me. Like I did it every year growing up. I get a little melancholy and sad, like, oh, it took me a long time to get used to this. And now like I like this. I like this, teacher or my class, or I like these classes, or I liked this setup, this carpool, whatever it was. And then it would be over. Right. And so even though most kids were like, yeah, summer, I'd always be like a little bit sad when things were
Hmm.
over. And so it's totally gone with me into my kids' school years. And, we're like at their school they grew up at, we bring flowers to the teachers. There was like some really sweet end of year rituals, and there's the desk cleaning, and then
Yeah.
all that like sort of end of year, not just pomp and circumstance, which we're going to get to, but like all the end of the year kind of closing, and then knowing that they're getting bigger and they're getting older, and like we'll never go back to that, right? We'll
Yeah.
never. And there's a certain point in schools like where they stop, automatically setting your kids up with good Mother's Day and Father's Day gifts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, like, so I don't know. I was thinking about it and then talking to my kid who's sad that the year is ending at school, right? Watching his friends leave. And I was there with him last year when, I helped him pack up, and he and I talked about it. It's just, the sad equals the good, right?
Mm.
The measure of which that you're sad about it equals like what was good about it.
Yeah.
But then I started thinking about graduations and what a beautiful bittersweet thing that is. Like it's so fun. And this year in particular, it's a really big deal because the kids graduating from college are the ones who didn't get to graduation or
As we
didn't
talked about
graduate
last week.
high
Yeah.
school, right? So there's that, but also there's just like the bittersweetness of it. Like it's called commencement. It's not called culmination, right? It is
Right.
marking the end of something, but it is the beginning of something brand new. And you have two kids graduating. So I was like,
Yeah.
why shouldn't we talk about this? Because like there's the kid perspective, but there's the parent perspective and the onlooker's perspective. I don't have anyone graduating this year, and I'm feeling all the feels. I think it's a time of deep emotion for everyone. In teachers, like my kids
Yeah.
have been at schools where teachers get really emotional watching these kids that they helped, they helped support, move on. They can have very different reactions, even between partners, right?
Yeah.
And I think simultaneously there's the celebration and the elation and the just, oh, like, just the adoration and congratulatory feelings for the kid that accomplished this. And then
Yeah.
there's like, gosh, big bad world's waiting for you, or the big great world, like however you look at it.
Yeah.
And so I did a little just looking in some psychology stuff that was looking at like how people mark time. It says there was three things that stood out to me. As a parent, it is natural to feel sad and anxious as your child prepares to graduate. So I want to ask you about that.
Okay.
If that's even true. Everyone in the family may have different and even conflicting emotions. And also it helps to think back about your own experiences of graduation time, because it might help you frame how you react now. So I'm curious, do you have any sad or anxious feelings about either graduation, or just do you want to tell me how you're feeling?
Yeah. So I think it's okay. So I think it's really interesting because I think what I'm experiencing currently is reflective of my experience in high school and college, and same as you. And mine's a little different than yours. So I've never been a huge fan of school. And I think Liam follows in my footsteps in that respect. Um, and so to me, I mean, graduating high school, I don't really remember much about it. I have pictures, but I wasn't very involved in high school by the time I was a junior and senior. And so when I left, I knew I was going to college. I was going to Miami with all the people that I had become friends with in high school that weren't that weren't at my high school. So I think I just was like, okay, this is just, I'm done, right? I'm done at Alter, but I'm going to Miami, and all the people that I'm really close to, with the exception of my friend Shelly, who was going to UC, I think. Um, but again, she was only going to be in Cincinnati. I was going to be in Oxford. So I didn't feel a real sense of like sadness, because it was just like, okay, because I didn't like high school. So it's like, okay, great, I'm done. And I was really looking forward to college. When I graduated college, I actually stayed an extra semester. So I did graduate in the fall, I think. I mean, I definitely graduated in the fall. What I can't remember is if I walked. I didn't walk in the spring because Darren did. So I must have walked in the winter. And the thing I remember mostly about graduation was that one of my friends who was also graduating went to put on his gown, and the arms were not were so close. We called him Rat, and he, cute, super funny guy, loved him. Yeah, and he was literally like, we're standing in line, and he puts his gown on, and he's just like, his hands were gone. I just remember laughing so hard, and we all meaning Darren and I,
Well,
like,
off.
remember when Rat tried to put on his gown and the arms wouldn't go through. So that's that. So now I look at Charlotte graduating high school, and I look at Liam graduating college. Again, Liam is not a big fan of school, so I think he, for a while now, has been like, I just need to get the piece of paper, and he's ready to move on with his life. Also, he didn't have a full 4-year college experience. He went to community college the first year, 2 years, transferred down to UC San Diego, and it's been fine. He loves La Jolla. He doesn't really love UCSD per se. So I don't feel any sense, and nothing's changing. He's staying there because Irina has another year. So there doesn't feel like any big shift in his life. I think with Charlotte, and maybe I will get teary here. I love VAPA. I love Grand Arts. And it's been our only school, really. Charlotte hated middle school. So we had no qualms about that being over. And she loved it being over early with COVID, because she really did not like that school. It wasn't the school, it was the situation. But VAPA has been such a rock for us since we moved to LA, because Liam started there and then he graduated. Again, we didn't have the experience because of COVID. And Charlotte has had such a fantastic experience. And so I am sad that we're done there.
Mm.
Um, I love her teachers. I'm friends with some of them on Facebook. I suspect this is not the end of that relationship, because Charlotte's is going to Loyola Marymount, so she's not going anywhere. So we will keep going to shows, for her friends that are juniors, and her friends that are sophomores, and even freshmen, So I suspect we will still be at VAPA quite a lot over the next few years. But yeah,
Mm.
that part makes me sad, for
Yeah,
sure.
it's community that
Yeah. And
it's
I've met some amazing parents there. When we moved out here, again, the kids were in sophomore and 6th grade. That's not a time of life where parents meet each other, right? The kids are going their own way. And I really didn't have anybody that I was close to at all at Charlotte's middle school. And I didn't really have anybody I was close to in Liam's grade. But now with Charlotte being in theater, I've met so many great parents of other theater kids, and we really like each other, and we go out and have drinks. And so it's almost been the reverse of when they were little. All my friends in Chicago were Liam's parents or friends' parents, and all my friends here have been Charlotte's friends' parents. But again, I don't suspect that's going to necessarily go away. I think we've developed, and we're all sort of like, ooh, empty nesting. Yeah, so I think that part will be cool. But I think that I have got, especially because of Charlotte and being in theater, and there's so many supportive parents in that department. I really love Charlotte's two besties, one's in theater, one's in visual. I really like their parents. So yeah, that is definitely community for sure there. So I am sad for that, but I also feel really lucky and excited for Charlotte going to Loyola, because it does feel like an extension of VAPA in some ways. It's a small school. She's going to get lots of opportunities there. So I am,
and because she's in theater, there's gonna be a lot of opportunities for you to be on campus to go,
right,
which
which
is
will be
cool.
unusual. Yeah. That's not,
Unusual for college. Yeah.
yeah. And then since she's not going far away, I mean, on a bad traffic day, Loyola is going to take us an hour to get there.
Yeah.
That's just bad traffic, you know? So yeah, it'll be really easy for us to go. I hadn't even really thought about that. Thank you for pointing that out. Like most parents, if their kids were going, like I have a friend in Chicago whose kid's coming out to UC Irvine. She's not going to get to see her in all the shows, but I can go see Charlotte in anything she's in.
You can go see her child.
I can go see Emma. Emma's also very talented. So good point.
The exception to that I noticed, and of course, this is such a small percentage of people, but I've noticed it's interesting. A couple, at least two, there might be a third. These two people I went to school with that I know on, Facebook have kids who play on a team for Notre Dame. And I don't know if there's a budget for it or if parents just do it, but they go to those games, they go to those home games and they
From
live in
Portland?
California. No.
Oh, from California.
One
I
of
mean, I
the
wouldn't be surprised if Notre Dame had a budget.
yeah, I have no idea, but I've noticed that. And then not
That's
just
interesting.
I noticed, and it makes sense. If your kid is playing a D1 sport,
Yes.
you're probably going to go to as many games as you can.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think that's the exception. Yeah, if your kids, I can't go to, oh, Peter's not doing anything to perform or play sport, but I can't go to things at Tulane, even if I wanted to.
But you've gone down to Jazz Fest. But that's the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, quite frankly, that's
I
one of the
can't
things.
go that often. Yeah.
Right. And that was one of the things when we were looking at the different schools for Charlotte. She was looking at New York, she was looking at Chicago, and she was looking at, and Loyola was the only thing in LA. And I said, yes, Loyola is incredibly expensive. The other schools weren't cheap. But I was like, we have to add in travel to go see you or have you come home. Here it's just a car ride or an Uber,
Yeah. Such a good point, because the
Yeah.
travel part really adds a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so like for you, and that makes sense, right? So like, what's it feeling like for you guys to have both your children like ending an era? Because like we're saying like it's commencement, it's actually the beginning of something.
Right.
They've accomplished something and they're both graduating. You're going to have the opportunity to sit at ceremonies that are both like for each of them. Like, what is that?
It's really exciting, and we're having a combo graduation party for them. Let's see, this is going to drop the first week of June, so it's not for a couple more weeks, but and you'll get an invitation. Wait till you see my invitation. I know you probably can't make it, but I wanted to send you one because it made me cry making the invitation up. I'm not going to tell you anymore, but it's really exciting. I feel like they're both exactly well prepared. I will say that. I'm excited Liam and Irina are coming up for Charlotte's graduation. Charlotte's going down with us for Liam's graduation. And it feels like the exact right time. I think they've both had the experiences they've needed to have. And I'm excited for what's next for them. For Charlotte, it's a known because we know she's going to college. For Liam, it's an unknown. He's going to be creating his own path and trying to find a job that's not in retail but still involves his creativity and his people skills and that sort of thing. So it's exciting. It's exciting, and I'm not scared because I know my kids, and I know they believe like I do that everything's going to unfold exactly as it should. So they don't have a lot of anxiety around it, which is helpful. I think if they did, I'd probably feel differently, but I feel very content, I would say.
So cool. And as far as it being a ritual, do you feel like it's an important thing to take part in?
I mean, I do, but Liam didn't get to. I do feel like commencement's important. I do feel like graduating and doing the actual walking across the stage. I mean, we did that with the retreat, that final, like, okay, stepping into the next part of your life. That's what walking across the stage and putting your tassel on the other side is all about. You are done, and now you're stepping in the next part of your life. VAPA did VAPA Grand Arts, whatever you want to call it, did a really nice job. And CWC did too, but they were middle schoolers, so they didn't quite care as much. Because it was COVID, they set up outdoor stage and had the 2020 balloons and all that. And so each individual, I think we had a time and we had to be there, and the kid would get out and have their mask and turn the tassel. So, I mean, they did the best they could. So I guess maybe Liam didn't know any better because it was so funny when he asked me, he's like, what does walking actually mean? Like he has no comprehension of what graduation even looks like, you know? And then Charlotte went to the senior one last year, so she understands, I think, a little bit more about what this is going to entail. Um, but yeah, I do think it's a marker in time. And there are people in this world that don't graduate college and don't graduate high school. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean they're less than, but if you've gone through this whole process, this is a time to say, okay, I'm done and I'm ready to move on.
Yeah, I do. I mean, this goes to something you and I always say, ritual and celebration. Don't skip it.
Yeah.
Even for a couple of reasons. Number one, because you might be missing an opportunity to really reflect and like stop where you are and see how far you've come and before you like continue on the
Yeah.
journey. Just to really celebrate and if that doesn't feel important to you, stay longer until you really realize like what you've accomplished.
Yeah.
But the other reason could be, and this comes like I feel like I'm speaking for my mom here, but I kind of agree, especially listening to you in some of the things you've said already, is my mom feels like graduation's for the parents, especially like if they paid a tuition. But I mean, she's sort of joking about that because I remember being like, "Oh, it's not that big of a deal to Peter that he didn't have a graduation." She's like, "But you deserved it, when you
Yeah.
get one." Um, and I was explaining to her too that like you don't need to come for a graduation, and she was like, "Well, why not? Like I want to celebrate. I want to be there." And my sister and I go back and forth about this. Like when a kid is graduating, very understandably, their attention's on their friends and their classmates because
Yeah.
they're ending a pretty big era together.
Yeah.
And like they're having this like, you know, loss feeling like, oh my gosh, just like our last thing together, our last walk down this hallway, our last class
Yeah.
with our favorite teacher, like all these things. And there's like a bunch of family comes to town to celebrate a graduation, and they also love their family, but they're like, can I go be with my friends now,
Yeah.
right? So there's
Yeah.
like this juggle. Like of course they want to celebrate, everyone's going to go probably to lunch or dinner right after with their family, but they're dying to get together. And
Yes.
so what was really neat about Peter's 2020 graduation is he spent it with his, his friends, and
Right.
but they ended up just doing a camp out because it was 2020, and in someone's backyard together, and we had their live ceremony zoomed on a big screen, and we
Yeah.
had a ton of fun. They wore their caps and gowns, their dads handed them their diplomas, like
Aw.
so it got to be a little bit of both, but in general, he was so thrilled that he didn't have to feel bad about leaving a brunch or and then he got to see his grandparents later and celebrate it. So
Yeah.
Julie and I always say that. It's like, is it fair to the grandparents to make them walk to this and this and this and shuffle them about when their grandkid that they're there to celebrate isn't around much? And my mom would say, yeah, because we're all celebrating them whether they're there or not, right? So
Right.
it's this interesting thing, kind of like a wedding, right? Like
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
depending on who you are in these scheme of things, your attention's on different things. The
Yeah.
graduate, like, of course, your attention's on who you're graduating with. You're not wanting to sit there and think about your future yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The parents are like, they're growing up, and like maybe we're about to be empty nesters, or maybe we're about to go into this other stage, or this is really exciting. Everyone's attention is different. I think it's interesting if everyone's aware of that and no one has expectations of how it's supposed to be. Everyone gets
Well, and there's the
have
key.
their own experience with this ritual, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think, and as we say so many times, it's like, your experience is your experience. Be present into whatever you're in. When I think about having the graduation party for Liam and Charlotte, I mean, you know, um, I, I don't care. I suspect Charlotte's gonna have all these people over. Liam will have a few. They will talk to them. They're not gonna talk to us. That's fine. It's totally cool. Um, and I remember you saying the thing about the last. Again, it's interesting since Liam wasn't that into school. I mean, he had a couple of, and they did on their final day when they did the graduation ceremony. He got to talk to the teacher he liked, the couple of teachers that he really liked, and so forth. Um, but he didn't have any like real sadness about Lass because his main connection was Irina and they were together all the time anyway. I think Charlotte will have that more, her last this, her last that, her last, um, it just, so I think for me, I didn't miss anything because he didn't miss anything. If this would have happened to Charlotte, it would be a lot more heartbreaking for sure.
Oh yeah. It's hard to talk about this without thinking about Griffin and
Yeah.
last and the
Yeah.
fact, he could have easily, and now, after the fact that he only got a year with CTP because he's aging out,
Right.
what just done that. He could have done that, but that would have meant a GED and not a high school graduation.
Mm,
But, so Griffin lost 2.5 years for medical reasons. And it was so important to him to graduate from high school and get that diploma. He really wanted that. He didn't get to graduate with his class. In fact, that was monumental. The day
mm.
we're having an IEP meeting for him to get a second senior year so he could finish high school at a different school. All the members of his class where he'd gone for 2 years were graduating that day. The exact same that
Wow.
IEP meeting with a different high school.
Ah,
And he was aware, we were all aware. And luckily during that time, IEP meetings, if anyone's ever had one, in individual education plan, right? Individualized education plan. Yeah. I think that's what it stands for at the moment. I'm like, individualized. IEP meetings are like everybody at the school who has anything to do with this person's needs and their education plan to keep them on track. So in Griffin's case, there was like a physical therapist because of, he
yeah.
sometimes drops, speech therapist, somebody who coordinates. He was in general ed, not special ed, but he coordinates the para educators because he needed one for safety. So those people, and they said invite anyone who can speak on his behalf. And Peter wanted to be there.
Oh,
Beth wanted to be there. My friend Colleen wanted to be there. So it was this beautiful opportunity when, like, for them to get to know him. We were encouraged to do a person-centered, what was it called? A PC. Oh God, my brain. It was a one sheet really with like
okay.
them, like, here's how I learned. This is a little bit about me. And he got to speak too. So it was so
Mm,
great because at a moment that everyone was graduating and he was aware of that, he got to hear people who love him talk about like what they admired about him, what his strengths were, how he learned, like how he approaches conflict, all this stuff. People really just spoke admirably. And he got his own like little ceremony, right? Like
yeah,
his own
I
little moment
really
of,
love it.
you know, getting having that reflection. And then, so then he did a senior year at a place where he knew nobody and didn't get to meet a ton of people because he had someone with him for safety, right? But he
Right.
he he did. He got really into, especially his psychology class and his screen printing class. But he got really into,
Mm.
felt very proud to be part of it. And when that graduation came, as you know, it was such a big deal. And especially, and he really takes a lot of pride in the fact that he was the first person in our family or of the brothers to like walk across the stage and graduate. And he loved teasing Peter about that.
I
Even though
love
he had a
that.
diploma, he didn't get a graduation. And Peter, because he was at his internship in Ohio, got to watch live on FaceTime. Very emotional because
Mm,
best friend, just like Griffin had chosen Peter's best friend to walk across with him because for safety, he couldn't walk alone. So it was a really emotional time for us, just to be at a graduation for the first time. And then also like be there because it was so important to him to have that milestone to
yeah.
accomplish. Because, he doesn't know what he wants to do yet with his future, but he knew he wanted that. So that was really neat. And another funny thing about it, the place where my kids graduated from 8th grade, I know, like you said earlier, in almost every other case, middle school graduations are not a big deal. But when you graduate from Arbor, this K-8 school, every single student, because only 22 kids per grade, usually somewhere around that, each kid gives a speech. And I know that sounds tedious.
Oh my gosh.
And it could be if you were in the audience, you weren't related to any, but because you've watched your kids grow up with these kids,
Yeah.
funny, some are emotional, some are deep. Like it's so awesome to like have every kid up there expressing themselves in whatever way, and they're dressed up and their families are there, and they're epically long, but have always been pretty neat and wonderful. So it was pretty cute because for the longest time, Griffin assumed whenever he heard something inspiring, like his freshman year of high school, sophomore year, he'd write it down and say, oh, I'm saving this for my graduation speech. It's like I hate to tell you, not everybody gives a speech.
Oh,
So we reminded him that, and he made just for fun like a little short one for us when he graduated.
oh,
So,
I love that.
right.
That's awesome.
So I do feel like it is an opportunity for parents to just bask in their in the glow of their child and like
For
who
sure.
they've been these past 4 years or whatever, like what they like the friends they've made, the ups and downs, and like I'm just loving that for you because you and Charlotte are so connected and you get to go through that with her and you have gone through it with her. And then also for Liam, like just to watch him launch into real, true, real live adulthood. That's exciting.
Yeah, I think it's it's interesting. I think I get sad about her friends who are going off to school. A lot of them are going to be here, and I feel still connected to them. I think it's a time to bask, but again, I think of it as a time to say, okay, this is complete. I love completion. I love to feel the bookends of things, and so um,
You're good for
that's
me that way.
am I?
Just you saying that gave me like a wave of feels about Peter's friends who are all, because he took a gap year. A lot of his friends graduating from college. Many of them are not coming home.
Yeah,
And I was seeing them when they came home. So like
yeah.
I feel that the ones that graduate high school and go away, especially those ones that were Griffins, age. And that my heart just squeezes about that. I mean, I don't resist it. I'm not like in grief, but it's bittersweet for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I feel pretty lucky that a lot of them will still be around. Prom was probably the first moment that I had the feels because again, Liam didn't have one. So everything right now that's happening for Charlotte is firsts for me. And I walked into Elena's house and burst into tears when I saw her because she was just, oh, so gorgeous. All the girls were and the boys looked great. But it was just that moment of seeing her all grown up. And I just, it was, I think, Charlotte's in my life. I think the things that are gonna pull on the heartstrings are gonna be the friends that I just love her friends so much. And and they're all such good kids and they're all so talented. And so I really, really, really can't wait to see what happens for them. And so this does, for her, really feel like the beginning of what is going to happen. I've watched her grow so much, not only since we got here to LA. I mean, that growth arc is crazy, but in the last 4 years and especially in the last year. And it's been so incremental and so building upon itself that it feels like exactly the right time for her to take the next step with independence. I mean, we're pretty good about letting her be independent, but this will be another level. I think for Liam, it will feel different. They plan on essentially moving back here after Irina graduates. That might feel like a bigger deal when they move back from San Diego to the LA area. That might feel more of a launch, I think,
Yeah.
because right now I think he'll still it's possible he'll still have some of a college mindset because Irina's finishing off, So I suspect that will feel bigger in a year from now when we go back down to UCSD to see Irina graduate, which I'm really proud of her because again, Liam always knew he was going to college. He didn't really want to go to college. This has been for Irina, it was something she really, really wanted to do. She wanted to go to a 4-year college and she wanted to graduate. Liam could give two shits. So I actually think Irina's graduation is going to be in some ways, a bigger celebration because it's just something she's worked really hard for. Not really hard because she's super smart, but she is focused and determined, and it's gonna feel like a bigger deal, I think, for her.
Oh, yeah. And it'll be like their launch into adulthood
It
together.
really, truly
That's
will.
that's exciting. I know.
Yeah,
Yeah, to me, listening to you, it's like it marks time. Graduations are a moment that like really make you very present, whether you wanted to be or not, because it's like,
yeah,
oh, like this is the end of something and the beginning of something new. It's this beautiful opportunity to like say I was here, right? Or like
yeah,
we're there. I don't know. It's so cool.
yeah.
I am and I've got, like Miles will be graduating next year. Peter will also be graduating next
Yeah,
year.
so you got the same deal. You'll have two in the same year too.
Yeah. Yeah. And in fact, on Brendan's side of the family, we have five, five graduations, four graduations, and a wedding.
This year?
No, next year, all
Oh
next
my
year.
gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot of beginnings.
Yeah. That is crazy.
I love it.
I was, well, I'm just gonna read this, but I think we should do a whole episode about this again. We've talked a lot about it, parenting adult children, but I think it's fun because when I was looking, I found this guy named Todd Bowman wrote this funny, well, I don't know how funny it is, but it says, hopefully this will help parents and grandparents, leave graduation and assume their new roles, which I was looking at this going, oh, Lisa's kind of already doing this with her kids. You have for so long. Like you need to move into a coaching role out of parenting. You kind of do that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The only influence you will soon have is the one you earn. You need to move into a coaching role with an eye of the real goal of eventually being a trusted friend. Like that you're not the authority anymore, I guess is more
Right.
their success or failure is totally up to them. You've
Great.
helped create opportunities, but it's up to them on what they do with it, and that like they understand its reality. I kind of think, everyone's different, but I kind of think like post high school is sort of a dry run into adulthood. I think parents are still a safety net.
Totally. Absolutely. And I say this with complete love. This generation and maybe millennials more than ever. I mean, talk about a safety net. I got out of college and my degree was in communications and my first job was working for my dad. I didn't even have to worry about trying to find a job. He had bought a little office supply store and he and I ran that for a couple of years until all the big box stores put us out of business. And then that led to the next job, which led to the next job, which led to the next job. But I think, I've had this conversation with a few people around, millennials and certainly Gen Z as they start to graduate and enter the new world. It's different than it was for us. And I'm happy to be the safe space. I think Liam has done a very good job in college of taking care of himself. Yes, we've helped out here and there, but it's a mutual decision. He asks, he doesn't expect, and so I think it'll just be an extension, but he'll have to sleep in the kitchen, but I'm always happy to have him here.
uh, It kind of reminds me of that episode we did last year on necessary losses, right? Like this is all
Yeah.
supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And as they get older and graduate, things shift. They'll never be the same again. And we get to like enjoy disengaging from active parenting. And like we enjoy the snot out of our kids. Like, I
Yeah,
think
we really do.
they're super fun people to have around.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rest of these are like, obviously visit as much as you can. Your kids are staying in the same area. But
Yeah.
this is the one I wanted to get to, like talk about more than career goals. I think that's so interesting because like I think about you and Darren and your kids, you guys have so much to talk about on like the like just the art you all appreciate together, and you all have
Right.
very similar opinions that you're passionate about and things like that. But I do recognize that when we're worried, sometimes we do bring up the things that like, okay, so have you tried this or how's this going? And it's reminding me like, when you check in and you're transactional all the time, or you're
Right.
constantly wondering about like, are you going to have an income? Of course we're worried about that. We want them to like be able to thrive and enjoy life, but also have an income. I think sometimes we forget that like, that's all they're hearing from us if we're not living in the same house. And so
Well,
a
and I
great,
think
great
it
reminder.
comes, yeah, no, I agree. And yes, you're right. We have a lot to talk about and we do, but also, with Liam in particular, it's like, again, we haven't helped him a lot. He's made his own way, but we're also like, there are things we still pay for that I think, forgets, like he's still on our insurance. We still pay for his cell phone. I think those are maybe the two big ones off the top of our head. Those are the little things. It's so funny. I was just thinking about this the other day. Like at some point, I'm going to have to sit down and be like, not now. I don't care when. It's part of our budget, but you're going to have he will get his own insurance somewhere when he gets a job. So I'm not concerned about that. But like, you're going to have to take the cell phone from me. That's $100 some dollars you haven't been paying every month. And he really works to make ends meet. So I think, that comes from our like, okay, we need this money back now, so we start talking about the career stuff. And so I guess we're lucky that we have more to discuss than that. Because I know that's definitely in the past, Liam has felt that, especially around he didn't work until he turned 18, and Darren did a lot of, when I was your age, I had already had 12 jobs. And Liam's like, oh my God, stop. So
Yeah.
it's something we actively have to not do, for sure.
Well, and I do think like it's funny. It's probably why people enjoy their adult children so much when they're off the payroll.
Yeah, 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 totally.
I remember Brendan being like, "Wow, we're gonna feel like we got a raise."
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I think that Brendan and I had this conversation already once when, when they move away, it's so important to have non-transactional time together.
Yeah.
Like when Brendan went to visit him, I was like, you don't have to take him shopping, you don't have to do anything, just enjoy each other. And then you did, and then I was jealous. I was like, when I went there, I spent 2 hours at Walmart and like a hot rainstorm. You got to just go listen to jazz. But it's true. Like I think they need a little bit of both. And if they ask, we can help, but it's so important to just have that time. Yeah. Well, that's what you got to look forward to.
I know. It's exciting, and I can hardly believe. I was thinking the other day, because LMU graduated last weekend again. This was in
I know I knew two people graduating there, and
so I was trying to do the math, because I was like, okay, that means Charlotte will be 20. I think she'll still only be 21 when she graduates. Liam will graduate when he's 22, but it's just, I was trying to do the math of it, and I still feel 21. So it's, I kind of can't believe we're here, but you and I both, I think we've enjoyed the shit, as you said, the shit out of our kids. And so it feels exactly right. I have no regrets. I have no, uh, yeah, it's where we're supposed to be,
it
and
goes
I
so
look forward to
fast.
the fronts. It went fast, but it also, I guess we've just done a lot in these 22 years, so it feels, we've packed a lot in. So I don't look back and go, oh, I still wish he was in kindergarten. No, I'm glad he is who he is, and I'm glad Charlotte is where she is, and I look forward to new friendships and new relationships and new expansion around these grown humans that I have made.
And then are you and Darren gonna like be
And
dancing?
then we're going to be like, oh, I mean, yeah, we're going to be empty nesters. I think we've done a really good job of practicing being an empty nester, because Charlotte has been so busy that, we do a lot of things by ourselves already. I don't, but I said this way back with Darren, and I did a Facebook live around, or my Facebook video around when we did relationships. And I am not at all nervous about being an empty nester. I think it's exactly the right time for Darren and I to go back to our roots. We were together 15 years before we had kids, so I'm excited to go back to that time and just be able to do whatever we want to do whenever we want to do it. Not worry
I'm,
about a vegetarian.
I'm assuming most people just can't wait to be empty nesters, but you're right. Some people we know definitely go through grief.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, it just seems so fun. Whenever
yeah,
I can have the house to myself, I'm like, oh, but great.
yeah.
Okay, so the song that we picked, it's a little shout out to Peter, my oldest, who doesn't normally like anything pop, but he apparently likes this song, or he was joking that he likes this song, but I think he really likes it. He put it on a playlist when we were in Hawaii. It's Natasha Bettenfield, Unwritten.
Hmm.
And I picked out these 4 lines because I thought it was just a fun graduation, new, like commencement type of song. Like, drench yourself in words unspoken, live your life with arms wide open. Today is where your book begins. The rest is still unwritten.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Those are the perfect words. And oddly, this month has turned into sort of talking about all this. So we talked about graduation and commencement today. Next week we have an amazing interview. I'm not going to pronounce her last name because you did it, and you did it so well. But a really interesting woman Her name is Chrissy, and she wrote a book called Lady Shark, and we did that interview. That's next week. It's talking about opportunities in your 30s to have lots of flows of income and build a life you want. And then the next week is all about starting over and what that looks like. And we don't know what our last week of June's looking like, but it's just weird that we've somehow cobbled together a little trifecta. So it's been fun though.
Well, as always, thanks for listening. Share this with anyone you know who's feeling nostalgic and bittersweet about graduations. And thank you for listening.
Thanks, everyone. Next week. See you next week.
Bye
Bye.
bye.